Joining us now is the director of our men's summit, Spencer Mozingo. Spencer, introduce yourself.
So, been through every aspect of life that you could go through trying to find out what true masculinity is. I grew up in a fatherless home. I went through the lifelong fixing of that, the abandonment and the quit culture that is taught in that. I joined the Marine Corps, did 12 years in the Marine Corps. And when I retired from the Marine Corps, there was something tugging at my soul, like I had a greater purpose that I needed to fulfill, and that's to help other men find their masculine heart. And that's what brought us here. You know, most of our capabilities are limited by our thoughts and our doubts and our fears. And I think a lot of that ties into the social media revolution as well. It's because we started seeing all these fitness gurus on social media saying, "Oh, I can do this, you can't," and people really started, dumping on themselves and stopped trying to be great. I was reading a book the other day, and it was talking about how men are so eager to put another man's last name on their back and look at them as a superhero and idol, especially with the sports culture. Why not wear a jersey that has your own name and push yourself to be great?
If you were to define masculinity, let's just say properly developed masculinity, how would you do that?
Balance. I think it comes into a lot of balance. A man that exhibits true masculinity, he has to be strong and sensitive at the same time. He has to be able to discipline and understand. He has to be able to give grace. He has to know when to talk and know when to listen, and the latter being the most important. I think masculinity has gotten such a bad tone because there is, what you would call toxic masculinity, people who have taken it too far because they lack masculinity.
They call it toxic masculinity, but there are times you don't possess self-control or discipline.
Correct.
Would that be?
It is mainly the control issue, not knowing how to control your emotions, control that aggression, seeing yourself as superior to someone else based off of just how you can act. But masculinity as its raw form is great.
It's also necessary.
Very necessary.
What happens if a culture gets too feminine?
Things will start to shut down. You can look at anything around it and you can find a strong man. Buildings are being built by strong men. Battles are being fought by strong men. And don't get me wrong, there's strong women out there too. I just don't talk about anything with women because I've never been one and I don't ever plan on being one. So it's not my right to tell them what they are. But I have 6 daughters. But I can tell you those 6 daughters are going to know what a real man is and what real masculinity is. And it's my job to make sure that men see that because they're looking for husbands someday.
So Spencer, I think it's fair to say that there is a war on masculinity.
Correct.
Why?
Because they're dangerous. If you have a man that is strong physically and mentally, and he's willing to stand up and take action, that could be dangerous if you're trying to cripple a society. I think you're villainizing a gender or a masculine man just so he can't come out against you. If you say that a man is toxic masculinity because he doesn't tolerate homosexuality or trans or whatever, and then everybody starts to hate him, then he's the villain. He's no longer the hero. So in order for you to be the hero, you have to create a worse villain than you are.
Walk us through some of the immediate consequences that we're seeing with the decline of masculinity.
Well, the first one is the fact that we have 500 genders. The identity crisis, because we said, okay, well, it's not okay to be a man anymore, so what am I supposed to be? Second one is fatherless children. 1 in 4 kids in the United States is fatherless. They're more likely to go to jail, more likely to drop out of school. The statistics for fatherless children is setting them up for failure. There's a good book out there called Tender Warrior by Stu Weber, and he kind of puts the 4 different pillars of a man's heart together of what a man truly is. A man needs to be a king, so he needs to lead his family. He needs to set the example. He needs to provide discipline when it's needed and love when it's needed. He needs to be a warrior.
Testosterone rates are down nearly 80% in the last 20 years. Why do you think that is?
Food, more than likely.
Yeah. Do you think there's any other factors? Do you think that is there a societal or cultural factor, or is it just all, you think, biochemical?
I think the lazy culture could be a part of it as well, as we stopped doing the things that require testosterone, lifting heavy weights, running long distances, carrying weight, physical activity. So it stopped producing it as a society. I think that's more than acceptable to assume. I think nobody's talking about it because we don't want to talk about men's problems because we don't want men at all. And I were to assume that if they could find a way to complete the reproductive process without a man completely, they would try to kill all men.
You think that's part of the agenda?
I do. because we don't want strong people who can stand up for what's right, because that's an issue.
It makes totalitarianism far more simple. We were talking about the balance between the feminine and the masculine. The thing I hear from women all the time is, I can't find a strong man. They're all weak, they're cowards, they're addicted. It's women that are asking the question, where are the strong men?
It's human nature. It's biological to want that. You don't want the guy who's going to sit there and play video games for 20 hours a day. But the feminists and others have villainized the male again to where everybody thinks that nobody wants a strong man. But that's not the case. It comes down to just needing to stand up for what's right.
You know, when a young man is asking, what is my purpose, what's my place, and this is the first generation that I believe in history has widespread institutional existential despair. It's never happened before. Why is that happening?
We've broken down like the society norms of the past. It's essential. In order for the country to be saved, the church needs to be saved. In order for the church to be saved, men need to stand up and start being men.